Welcome, everybody, to the IDP Underground. That is the weekly show from Fantasy Sports Advice Network, where they just kind of let me be me by myself and do all of this fancy, fun IDP content. Well, I've got a lot for you today. Every Monday, about 9 o'clock, 9-ish, 9:15, whenever the coffee starts hitting me, I go ahead and put together a series of notes, thoughts that I'm constantly kind of thinking about over the past week in IDP. And this week, we're going to start with what I believe was the best IDP performance we had this week, and that was Ernest Jones. Seahawks linebacker Ernest Jones had his best game of the season and arguably the best in the entire league this week. With 12 total tackles, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown, Jones is quite clearly over the injury. Jones has been a great linebacker to roster this season, having just one game under double-digit points in games he's played. He's a must-start player in lineups moving forward, especially after showing us what he is truly capable of. And I think that's exactly what we saw out of him. We know that when he plays, he's good. Last year was a weird year where he was traded twice in the same season, which I don't believe I've ever seen. But every team that he has been on, he has been a factor in IDP scoring. Last week, like I said, 12 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown. Obviously, you don't expect him to have multiple interceptions or a touchdown, but that 12 total tackles is exactly the type of player you're getting from him. He's a tackle machine. He's a guy that you know is going to get tackles in high volumes. And when you're trying to play IDP and you're trying to win your week, that is the type of linebacker that you can set and forget and line up every week. I play IDP a bit more conservatively than most, I would say. I know it's cool to go after the splashy plays. You want the dudes that are going to have, multiple sacks, and they're going to have the Micah Parsons and the Myles Garretts of the world. And yes, they're great players this season, but I really, really like to build my foundation on tackle-heavy linebackers, and that is exactly what Ernest Jones has been since joining the Seahawks after a brief stint with the Rams, and I don't even remember the other team he was on last year. It was just kind of a weird season for him, but it seems like he's found a home. And him, Drake Thomas, and Tyrese Knight, the linebackers in the Seattle linebacking core, are fantastic players to have, and he has been, quite frankly, the best of the group. The second player, I just mentioned him, and if I'm talking IDP, I always have to throw him in here, and that is Micah Parsons. Hey, Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons is continuing to make me look like an idiot for fading him this season. With 2.5 sacks on Thanksgiving, he has extended his streak to 3 straight games with multiple sacks. Parsons not only has broken the record for most consecutive seasons to start a career with 12-plus sacks, he also is impacting the game this season outside of just getting those sacks. He has 38 tackles with 5 games left to go, and he's just 5 shy of eclipsing last season's total. So right now you're seeing not only Micah Parsons breaking the NFL record for most consecutive starts, 12-plus sacks, and that's an impressive line. I mean, nobody's ever done it. So he's already in that elite, young, he's a sack volume guy. The problem I had with him at the beginning of the season was I felt like it was all or nothing with him. You were either getting all of the production, you were getting minimal tackles, but when he would have those games, he had double-digit sack seasons. This year, we're getting both the sack production and the tackle volume, which is making him, A, one of the most stable edge rushers we have in the league, and B, he's a week winner. I don't know if he's a league winner. He's not having a Myles Garrett season, but he is 100% swinging matchups each week, and it's because the Packers went all in on him being the focal point of their defense, a defense that's good, a defense that also boasts 2 top 10 linebackers, or at least prior to Quay Walker's injury, 2 top 10 linebackers, although don't stick your nose up at Isaiah McDuffie. He is doing a lot of good things in the linebacking core for the Packers. All of that, I'm just saying the Packers are a great IDP team to have. Everyone from Xavier McKinney in the secondary to the 3 linebackers I just mentioned, and of course the crown jewel of them all, the one that continually puts egg on my face, Micah Parsons. Micah, one more time, 2.5 sacks on Thanksgiving, and he has extended his streak to 3 straight games with multiple sacks. I mean, you just can't write a more embarrassing story for ya boy. And you know what? I'm just going to take the L. He's good. Nothing wrong with having another player to talk about it. And you know what? He's a fellow podcaster, so I'm rooting for the guy. I promise I'm rooting for the guy. I don't hate him. I just didn't think he was going to be this good. Who knows? Another edge rusher I want to talk about is another young edge rusher, and that is the Vikings edge rusher, Dallas Turner. He's having a breakout season in his second year in the league. While he hasn't been flashy on the stat sheet as many of preeminent players at the position are. He has shown us glimpses of what the future can be for the former 17th overall pick. He has 3 straight games with a sack, 5.5 on the season, and he has 46 total tackles. Not too shabby for someone you likely weren't depending on entering the season. The sky is the limit for a player of Turner's talent. Dallas Turner, I've got kind of a soft spot for. When I first started getting into the content world, my first real draft class I broke down and actually took some big swings on was his draft class. I think this was 2024. And I took a big swing saying that I thought Dallas Turner was going to be the best player from that group. And that included Leatu Latu, among other players. But I always felt like Dallas Turner was going to be the better edge rusher in the group. You're never wrong. You're just early, right? And I think that's what I was on Turner a little bit. He went to the Vikings defense, which had some really solid edge rushing talent, specifically Andrew Van Ginkel, who has been a revelation over the past 1.5 to 2 years. Van Ginkel has dropped off. There was some injury stuff. He's not performing well when he's back in there. And well means maybe they're scheming against him, so he's not getting those one-on-one opportunities we saw him get. But Dallas Turner has been a revelation this season in IDP. And he's a player that I guarantee wasn't drafted that high if you're in standard redraft IDP leagues. But as far as dynasty is concerned, he is a guy that you need to roster. If he's available in a dynasty league that you are in, he's the perfect type of player to kind of, even if your season's over. Some of our seasons are over, and I get that, man. There's no shame. So this is a hard game. But if you're at this point in the season, you can't win in the playoffs, your league doesn't really have like a toilet bowl or anything to play for once you start getting eliminated, this is the time where you need to start taking dart throws on players ahead of time, ahead of the curve, before the offseason and your waiver wire closes. And Dallas Turner is the perfect guy to target. He's a second-year edge rusher. We're seeing ascent in his play. He's clearly carved himself out a role on this defense, regardless of the talent around him. And honestly, let's be real about the Vikings. They have been very disappointing this year. So trying to find bright spots in disappointing teams, if we can see that the Vikings are not doing well, I guarantee in the building they're seeing that they're not doing as well as they would imagine. And I think that when you see bright spots on teams like this, you need to just hold them, especially if they're a second-year edge rusher that was the former 17th overall pick, and he's from Alabama, all right? I know it's one of the most overrated things in the world to talk about the pedigree, talk about where a player has been, where a player is from. But SEC defensive linemen, that is a real scouting point. You do not get to that level if you don't have, one, the talent, and two, the body type, the pedigree, the overall cavorka, if you will, of a dominant defensive player. And I think that Dallas Turner can be that guy. We're seeing it now. He's got 5.5 sacks in the season. He didn't play very much last year, so this is a career high. And at the beginning of the year this year, he didn't play that much. But 5.5 sacks, 46 total tackles. What more can you want from a player that's kind of jumping into our zeitgeist, jumping into the minds of all IDP managers in some way that you need to target? If you're not in contention this year, minimum go into it next year. That was a fun one. But I know another one that I really like talking about, another guy I talk about, it feels like almost weekly, and it's not intentional. I'm not trying to just glaze this dude every time that I see him on there, but I just don't think I think we're so quick to anoint certain players as the best at the position. And this player is not often talked about in that realm, debated by many, but he's one of my favorites. And that's safety Talanoa Hufanga of the Denver Broncos. He had his best outing of the season for IDP this weekend with 10 solo tackles, 3 assisted tackles, and a defended pass. After a late injury report added due to illness, Hufanga was indeed sick on the field. For those that follow or read any of my stuff, it is no secret that I think Hufanga at his best is the best player at this position in the league. Last night's primetime game was just the latest example of a star shining when the lights are the brightest. And I feel like that's when you get the best out of Talanoa Hufanga. The reason I fell in love with this dude 2 years ago, maybe, it was the San Francisco years, but I don't believe it was last year because I was pretty injury riddled. But I picked him up off of waivers 2 years ago, and it was the Monday night game where he had the pick six. And obviously, the dude kind of looks like Troy Polamalu. I don't think he plays like Polamalu. Polamalu is a one-of-one type of talent. But when you see him on the field, he reminds me a lot of him. And it's not just the hair, all right? He's all over the place. He can play deep at the traditional deep safety role, but he can also creep up into the box. And you see games like last night, 10 solo tackles, okay? 10 solo tackles and 3 assisted tackles is 13 total tackles. Quick math. But the solo tackles are what really drive the points if you're getting tackle volume players. Yes, 13 if it's 6 and 7, you're going to do some weird, 6, 7, didn't mean to do that. You're going to get some weird, half points for those assists. But solo tackles at that rate, that is an incredible play. It's a starter that you can rely on, but Hufanga is constantly going to be able to give you these type of numbers. The numbers that you can rely on, which is tackling. But the beauty about his game is it's not just the tackles. He can show you that he can get in the passing lanes. He can force fumbles. He's clearly always around the ball. And he was an important offseason pickup for the Denver Broncos along with Dre Greenlaw. And I don't believe that that was unintentional. I do think that he is going to be somebody they're building around for the upcoming future. I don't think this is just going to be a 1 or 2 year wonder. I could see him sticking with this defense for many years to come, and he will be a preeminent player in IDP for many years to come. So shout out Talanoa Hufanga. You get one more week of love from your boy, Matt Monty. That sounds so douchey when I say my name by myself. But you know what? Hey, I'm doing a solo pod. These are a little bit harder than I thought that they would be. It makes me have a larger appreciation for the people that do this on TV for like 2 or 3 hours, because I'm telling you, it is not near as easy as it looks. And I know I'm probably making it look real easy for you guys, but I'm telling you, it's not. It's not easy. We're going to go back to my favorite position on the football field, the safety position, or defensive back for you that care more about the generalizations of where they play. And that is Raiders safety Jeremy Chinn. He exploded back onto the scene this week with 17 total tackles. This brought his total to 93 on the season with 5 games remaining. He's creeping into must-start territory in IDP. Now, IDP managers remember the days when Chinn was a no-doubt starter with few players in the same stratosphere of his production. But those days have been few and far between since he left Carolina. His play since then has been a lot like a soda that you had for like an hour. It's still good. You can still taste the Sprite, but it's not near as crispy. It isn't quite what it was when you popped the top. But for whatever reason, we are seeing a resurgence from Jeremy Chinn in this defense. It reminds me a lot of like what Jordan Brooks is doing, where Jordan Brooks was a set and forget, unbelievable, unquestioned IDP 1 and linebacker 1 for most of the years he was in the league. He changes teams, and then suddenly things aren't the same. But this season, you're seeing him and the Miami Dolphins linebacking core, and he is just the same player that he was in Seattle, the IDP 1, the linebacker 1. Jeremy Chinn isn't exactly that explosive. It's not like he went from nobody to number 1, but he is 100% creeping into that I can't sit him territory, and I don't think you should sit him. It's shocking to me how out of nowhere Jeremy Chinn has come back. Because, like I said in the text here, it wasn't like IDP managers didn't know what he had in his bag, but he just kind of fell off. And defensive backs, when they fall off, you just kind of toss them aside. There's so many players that play that position that you can't really afford to accept weeks that are less than productive on your rosters. And in some cases, zeros. Defensive backs are notorious for giving you no points with no real news as to why. But Jeremy Chinn, he's got 93 tackles on the season with 5 games remaining. So he's going to flirt with that 120 tackle range, which is a really, really good season for a defensive back. If you can give me some more of those explosive plays, I'd be more apt to say that he is a must-start league winner, top position guy. But he hasn't really done that this year. But the tackle volume is the exact type of consistency that you need at this point in the season. And it's a Raiders team that you know is going to get down early, so he's going to be forced into the box more. And that's why we are seeing his tackles go up, is because the Raiders defense cannot stop anybody. If they can't stop anybody, teams are going to try to run the ball, not only because they're up, but because they need to avoid the pass rush that is Max Crosby. And we're seeing Max Crosby sack numbers go down because of this. So you're seeing a whole, like a chess game within the NFL game here. No, it's no secret the Raiders are bad, but teams know that too. So they're designing game plans to get up early and then just pound the rock against this defense, and you are seeing Jeremy Chin take advantage of these opportunities. So Jeremy Chin is back. I feel like with Jeremy Chin and Jordan Brooks going back up there, what is this, like 2015? I don't know what's going on here, but I love it. Bring me back 10 years ago. I'm going to go into my brother's favorite team. So I've always kind of had a soft spot for him, but this player I've managed and rostered in many leagues, and I feel like every week I used to get him wrong. So I finally washed my hands of him. And of course, just like fantasy football loves to do to us, once you wash their hands, suddenly it's like, hey, remember me, remember me. And that is the Jaguars edge rusher, Josh Hines Allen, the second best Josh Allen in the entire NFL. He's in the midst of his best 3-game stretch of the season and added to his career franchise record sack total for a third straight game. He's up to 6 total on the season, but has sacks in 4 of his last 5 games. I can't figure out what to do with players like Hines Allen, and as a former manager of his in IDP, I felt I was consistently wrong about what weeks he would or wouldn't contribute to the box score. You got to ride the hot streak if you dare, but we all know what happens when he's got an off game. I still think that you need to ride the hot hand. You need to throw your chips in the middle, especially with an edge rusher. Unless you've got better options, and I understand it. I get it. Trust me, he is not a player that I like to trust too often unless I have to in IDP. But you just kind of got to let this roll. It's like when you see a player that's got like 5, 6 sacks in a row, but they're not getting a lot, and it's like, man, do I really think it's going to happen? Especially this time of the year, if you need a Hail Mary, he is absolutely the type of player you want out there. Because like I said, he's the Jaguars' all-time leading sack getter. And while it may not always show up in IDP box scores, that is something. He does lead this franchise in the stat category. Now, it's one of the younger franchises in NFL history, I'll give you that. But you got 6 sacks, 4 of which came in the last 5 games. I just think you got to ride that hot hand, especially with the Jaguars, man. They're a competitive team this season. And they're a competitive team, and if they're in it, then that means they are going to be aggressive. They are going to try to get after the other team's quarterback. And yeah, they're going to do it every play, but you have more of an incentive, more of a motivation as a player, if you are in these games, to affect the other side of the ball. And I think that's exactly what Josh Hines Allen is doing this season, and he's doing it one of the best he's had in his career. I think right now he's pacing for just under his career high, which was 12 sacks a few years back. So he's going to hover in that 8 to 10 range, and I think that's a good number for him to have so long as the other statistics are there. And this season they haven't been, but we're coming into the money week, so you really, really got to make sure that you're prepared for this type of player. Mike, what is up, my man? I appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Thanks for showing up. Oh, my dog, you freaked my dogs out. I'm not sure if you can hear him barking in the background, but thank you, Mike, for showing up and showing some love to the chat. We're going to go into another player who I was hugely wrong on. Somebody that I cannot get. I'm having nightmares about this guy. And so are opposing quarterbacks. And you know what? It's an IDP show. You cannot talk IDP without talking about currently the defensive player of the year. And that is Browns edge rusher Myles Garrett. He did it again. He had a sack on Brock Purdy, bringing his season total to 19, keeping him on pace to break the sack record by season's end. He also had 4 additional tackles to the box score. Garrett has always possessed the ability to be a week-winning player, but he was rarely in the conversations as a league winner. This season, there may be no more valuable player in IDP than Myles Garrett, and I'm truly rooting for him to break this record. He's putting together one of the all-time great seasons, and we need to appreciate it. And I'm saying that as a Bengals fan. It is just incredible when you see a guy who is playing at the highest level that you can play in this sport and dominating it like no other player has. There's still some time. He's not at Michael Strahan's record quite yet, but we've seen him. I mean, what is he, within 4? We've seen him achieve that 3 times this year with 4 sacks. So it would not shock me if it happened in one game. And the Browns are not playing for anything, which means Myles Garrett is literally playing for himself right now. There's no other reason to go out there and do this. He got paid. He got paid handsomely. It was kind of back and forth. Nobody knew, okay, is he worth the money? Should we pay him? Oh, my God, why didn't you trade him? The Browns look like geniuses. They paid him, and he is going to play like the best edge rusher that has ever lived. And I do believe that he is in that conversation. Now, Mike is going to talk a little smack on me here. Knowing you as a Bengals fan, how are you feeling about Barrett Carter? Barrett Carter is fun, man. He was a guy that I just did not think was going to do much at the beginning of the year. And I don't think I'm in I don't think I was in the minority there. I think a lot of people, Bengals fans included, thought that Demetrius Knight was going to be the guy that was going to step up and take the mantle and do it more consistently. And he did. He got the first chops at it. He got the opportunity to kind of look at it. But he, for whatever reason, they just, in the middle of the year here, we had this weird dice roll thing going on in our linebacker core. We saw Oren Burks play more than Demetrius Knight. But the one thing that's been consistent is once they gave Barrett Carter the nod, once they started doing the green dot stuff with him, he has played the most snaps at the position. And ultimately, that's all I care about. Miss me with all your stupid PFF. Oh, they're 62 and 63, respectively. Okay, I saw that little stat. You know what? For Chris Collinsworth, a former Bengal owning that company that's headquartered in Cincinnati, you'd think we get a little more respect on our name. But the reality is, their metrics don't think we're a good defense. Over the past 3 to 4 weeks, they've looked like a competent defense. The wins are going to start coming. I believe that. And Carter has shown us that he's got a real opportunity to be a long-term starter in this defense. And I think in IDP, that's really all you're looking for. So, Michael, I think I'm wanting him. He's a guy I would try to get everywhere if I can. I don't think you're going to be able to acquire him if you don't already have him. But if you have him, you absolutely got to hold on to him. I don't think he's a guy that you give up on. So going back to Myles Garrett, just want to wrap that up in a bow here. Myles Garrett's a dog. Do I need to tell you anything else? I mean, my gosh. And that's not even a joke about the dog pound of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, this dude is freaking insane. And he is a fun player to watch. And I'm rooting for him to break the sack record. Last guy I'm talking about. Saints defensive tackle Cameron Jordan. You remember Cameron Jordan? Well, he's in the middle of his best stretch of the last 2 seasons. Over his last 3 games, he has 8 tackles and 4 sacks, which may feel like small potatoes compared to some of the stats we've seen this season. But for an interior defensive lineman that's 36 years old and on a struggling team, he has been impressive this season. He has the most sacks he's had since 2022, and he has a shot at double-digit sacks again this season, with matchups down the stretch against the Panthers, Jets, and Titans coming. Cameron Jordan's not been on a lot of people's radars. They moved him from the edge to the interior, which I think is probably the smart thing to do with players from that position as they age. But Cameron Jordan has shown us for a long time that he is a real deal NFL player, and he can play this so long as he keeps wanting to get that check. But what we haven't seen over the past couple of seasons is the production match the name value. And this year's not exactly been a great season for him. It's not going to be one of those you remember, but it has been productive from an IDP standpoint, and more so than he has been, like I said, in almost 2 full calendar years. But, excuse me, he's had 8 tackles and 4 sacks over his last 3 games, and I don't think that that's something that we need to ignore, especially at 36 years old. We're seeing the twilight of his career, and at the interior defensive line in those true position IDP leagues, he's definitely worth a flyer. In super deep leagues where you have to roster some of these players that maybe are ugly names, he is one of those guys that I think you can throw in any week, and you've got as good of a shot as anybody else who's picking up somebody from the waiver. But, Michael, I got to get to your other question here, man. Oh, no, actually, I didn't read it ahead of time. It wasn't a question. I appreciate you, Michael. No smack, my man. I was a big Carter guy, so I was interested in your opinion. Thank you, sir. No. Thank you. Anytime I can get cheap Bengals talk on any pod I'm on, I'm taking it and I'm running with it. That was the pod, guys. I appreciate you, those who watched. This is the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, the IDP Underground. Always looking to get more chat in there. Always trying to get your questions on the screen. But excuse me, at the end of the day, man, I'm just happy you guys watch me do my fun little nerdy hobby. And I appreciate that. I'll be live tomorrow night on my other show here for Dynasty D-Gens. That's at 7 p.m. with my guest, Matt Batanti. We're going to be talking all things IDP and a little bit about how Matt Batanti commissioners some fantasy football leagues. But for next week, 7 p.m., Fantasy Sports Advice Network, the IDP Underground, I'm Matt Monty. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next week.